Schultz or Ms. Sturgis, whoever's next, come on up.
Thank you, Chairman Drew and fellow commissioners, for hearing our petition. Today we're simply asking that the Commission accept the petition and allow it to go through the rulemaking process. We'd be happy to assist in the process of drafting regulatory language if the Commission requests. However, that is not the obligation of the petitioners at this time. NRS 501.181 recognizes the duty of the Commission to establish policies regarding the management of all wildlife, protected and unprotected. With regard to the contest targeting coyotes, we feel that regulation is needed at this time on the basis that there needs to be ethical standards and considerations that reflect the valuable role predators play in maintaining an ecosystem's functioning, resilience, health, as well as public values and appreciation and respect for all wildlife and predators. We have submitted Project Coyote's letter written by an esteemed science advisory board and more than 50 independent scientists who conclude that indiscriminate killing of coyotes and other predators is ineffective and may actually lead to increased risk of livestock predation. The scientists also concluded that contests are not a reliable means of increasing ungulate abundance, as some contest supporters contend, as Don pointed out in the presentation. I would like to close by saying we are living in a time when societal ethics and values are being eroded. What is the message that killing contests are sending to our youth? Does this teach them to be conscious and respect our wildlife? What will happen to our humanity if we allow these contests to continue in the future? Let's be very clear today that we're not requesting you to end contest judging who can shoot the largest elk. We are talking about unlimited killing of wildlife for which there are no bag limits or quotas. I know that there are probably many hunters in here that feel they have been getting a bad rap. Maybe you feel like you're under attack. You feel like people want to take your guns away, your rights away, and your pioneering spirit away. But that is not what we are seeking to do. The reality is that most hunters believe that killing an animal without adequate reason is unjustified and unsportsmanlike. And I strongly believe that most hunters here actually have a deep reverence for life. And I do not believe that a true ethical hunter would be interested in continuing these contests. Let's come together and end this senseless killing today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sturgis. Mr. Wolf?
I have nothing to say, Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Moldy, do you have any idea who wants to answer questions, or is it going to depend on the substance of the question?
Yeah, it'll depend. Go ahead.
Okay. Questions by the Commission before we go to public comment of the petitioners? No one has any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I've got one question.
Commissioner Valentine?
Thank you. Dr. Moldy, when we heard this last March, I believe Commissioner Johnston was pretty explicit when he moved for denial. And one of the things he was looking for was some sort of wording and regulation. Is there a reason why he didn't come back with some form of regulation in word form that we could address at this particular point in time?
Yeah, certainly. First of all, we have no authority to create regulations. That's your job. Well, the department, I'm sure as you know, and I've been through these petition hearings before, if a petition is accepted, then the department staff, usually law enforcement, drafts temporary regulation to implement the gist of the petition. And then that goes to the commission and circulates around and to the cabs and comes back and ultimately winds up at the Legislative Council Bureau, whose job it is to integrate the temporary regulations into existing state law so that there aren't any conflicts and redundancies and all of that. And then it comes back and goes through the same round again. So our view is that we have no authority nor expertise to create regulations. We're not lawyers. We don't work for the state. We're not, well, there was a lawyer there, but at any rate, we don't see that that's our duty or obligation, or that we can even do it. It doesn't make any sense to us to be asked to do something we can't do. However, I would point out to you that slide, about the fourth slide in, that presented a redefinition of, that is, that we were looking for a regulation that protects fur bearers and other non-game species that are not protected by quotas, tags, and so on. To me, that has a pretty good look to it in terms of the start of a regulation. I think if the department wanted me to work on that, I would certainly be able to, put some more language together and use that as a framework for regulation. But I think Commissioner Johnston was asking us to do something we can't do. That's my response.
Any other questions, Commissioner Valentine? Commissioner Hubbs, did you have a question?
Yes, I actually do, just being so new to the commission, and I just wanted to clarify on record that today we're being asked whether to have the petition move forward or to deny it. Is that correct, Chairman Drew?
That is correct. If the board accepts the petition, it would initiate a regulatory process, and that could take a lot of different forms. We could request the department to draft a regulation. We could set up a committee. We could set up or work through this group to develop some language. So essentially, this would be from this step, if we are to accept the petition, to a final regulation, would take a series of meetings and probably quite a bit of time.
Thank you.
In my mind. Additional questions of the petitioner? Commissioner McNinch, did you have one? Okay, so Mr. Moldy, I had just a couple here. I believe you clarified this, but I want to make sure that so that the intent really of your petition, even though it says mammals, is going to be specific to unprotected mammals and fur bearers. Is that what I understand?
That would be
That's your
my
request.
preference, yes, absolutely.
Okay. You talk about you want to support the proper and traditional values practiced by most sportsmen, which they've observed in the past and will continue to practice into the future. Do you believe the only way to achieve that is through a regulation?
No, I suppose people could do the right thing, but these days, I'm not so sure about that. Commissioner Young had a point last time, former sheriff, Clark County, has an idea about laws, saying that, we can't regulate social behavior. Well, that's an interesting point of view, because I think that's all the law does, is it regulates social behavior. We don't do dog fighting anymore. We could probably say, could we have gotten rid of dog fighting in Nevada without a law? Well, we probably could have if the dog fighters stopped fighting their dogs. But you know what? Nobody thought they would, I guess. So a law was necessary. I could go on, but you get the point. I think it's possible. And maybe if you, as the commission, took an educational role, stepped up and said, look, guys, we don't think these contests are the way that you should be doing business. And as a commission value judgment, we think you should stop this. And when you see somebody posting a flyer in the Austin bar a month or so ago, the commission could call up and say, look, this is really not a good idea. It makes us look bad in front of the public. We probably shouldn't be doing this. Are you sure that this is a smart thing to do? I think that we could work an alternative arrangement of education regarding those who promote and participate in this, and I'd be happy to help in that. But I'm not sure that would get the job done, quite frankly.
So in your definition of a wildlife killing contest, you talk about having a social event planned for participants before, after the awards. And I think I know where you're going here, but to me as a sportsman, the social aspect of a hunt is really probably the most important to me. So is a social event okay if money and prizes aren't exchanged? How far are you guys wanting to go with that aspect of this?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you misunderstood what I wrote there. Back in March, and even continuing to the present day, if my reports from the Clark County CAB was any indication, those on the other side who don't want this petition have obfuscated the issue and said, what are you trying to do, stop rabbit killing or something? None of that's true. And the reason that I wrote those descriptive items, including the banquet item, the flyer, sponsors, the Calcutta gambling, all of those items are simply to help us describe to you the event that we're talking about. The objectionable part of the event is the killing of the animals. All of those things that I wrote down, including the banquet, the guys brought their cameras and not their guns. And they had a weekend event, and the guy that took the best photograph won the Calcutta prize or whatever. I'm not saying that any of that should be banned. I simply wrote it as a description of what we're talking about, not that anything should be banned. And I'm saying that they could do all of that any weekend they wanted, just bring their camera.
Right, and I think you say that on page 3 of your petition, that you agree that coyote killing contests will not place Nevada's coyote population in jeopardy, and really what you're more concerned about is the population dynamic. But do you truly believe that by setting a regulation that disallows contests, we're truly going to reduce the overall number of coyotes that are being killed, or that people who are going to kill a coyote one way or the other aren't going to do that now that we have a contest?
No, I don't think we'll stop coyote killing, and I don't think that's the purpose of our petition. I think the petition is to say that these events are objectionable on ethical and moral grounds. This has nothing to do with controlling coyote populations in Nevada. This has nothing to do with any of that. This has to do with a message as to whether we want whether the public wants this to happen to Nevada. Do we want to train our kids to go out and kill as many animals as they can on a weekend for a banquet and prize? Is that really what we're talking about here? Our answer is no. So our petition has more to do with the moral aspects and the ethical aspects than any issue regarding coyote population. Although we're pointing out that the science of population dynamics of coyotes is on our side. Clearly, the other side has presented nothing to show that randomly killing the animal does anything other than producing younger males who cause trouble. That's the science of it. Like it or not, that's the science of it. And the other side has brought nothing to show contrary.
Okay, the future generation thing, I guess, falls a little bit on deaf ears with me, only because I think that's a parent's responsibility to teach them. But
well, I agree.
It's difference of opinion. But you talk about fair chase and hunter ethic, and you've listed the Boone and Crockett hunter ethics here in the 6 points that you have. Is there some reason that is there a reason why someone who's participating in a contest can't follow those same ethics, even though they're in a contest?
Well, as I said in the PowerPoint, if you look at hunter ethics around the internet, you do the Google thing, almost none of them speak to these contests, including the Boone and Crockett. The points I listed don't speak to this contest, in my view. And so I regard hunter ethics statements that I've been able to find as relatively useless in terms of speaking about these contests. I think the North American model is much more persuasive, particularly the non-frivolous aspect, the science management aspect, the public trust aspect. I think those are more powerful arguments on our side than Boone and Crockett's ethics statement, frankly. I just included that for your general information. You know, it's kind of interesting to me to see what sportsmen are saying about ethics these days with respect to these killing contests, which, by the way, have gotten a lot of publicity. You know, it's not just Nevada we're talking about this stuff. There's a public pushback going on about these issues. So anyway, it was just for your edification. You can do with it what you want.
I think that's the questions I had. Are there additional questions from the board of the petitioners? Okay, seeing none, I think what I'll do is we'll open up our remote locations for public comment. We'll try and get through Las Vegas and Elko, and then I think we're probably going to be needing a break before we come to Reno. Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I'm pleased, Harry Ward, Deputy Attorney General, just a little housekeeping, and this is a request. If you're going to read your public comments, which you're more than welcome to do, please make sure that Suzanne, raise your hand. She gets a copy because it makes it a whole lot easier for minutes, and I expect we'll have a lot of public comment. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So let's open up public comment in Las Vegas. Commissioner Wallace will keep track of the time. You can see us in Las Vegas, correct?
Yes, we can, Chairman. How do we sound?
You're sounding a lot better. So I'll have him hold up the yellow cards when you get within 30 seconds of your time being up. But for the record, since you're in a remote location, please state your name for the record and then begin with your comment.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commission. Jana Wright for the record, speaking in support of the petition to ban mammal killing contests in Nevada. As the governor-appointed Board of Wildlife Commissioners, you have to make tough decisions that might cause you some grief in your communities. We know being a commissioner is not always enjoyable or easy, at times might be very difficult, but doing the right thing is always noble. The real question before the commission, in my opinion, is, does the commission find nothing wrong with contests that kill animals for fun and prizes? Killing animals for no legitimate purpose is against the North American model of wildlife conservation. These animals are not killed because they have caused harm to a rancher, farmer, or domestic animal, but because someone just wants to kill some coyotes, have a few beers, and maybe make a few dollars in the process. Is this the type of behavior that defines a sportsman? Please vote in support of this petition and respect our wildlife by working on a regulation to ban these type of animal killing contests. Thank you.
Next comment.
Hi, this is Stephanie Myers, and I'm speaking in support of the petition. Thank you for listening. I'm really concerned about the message that it sends to our young people to have these coyote killing contests, euphemistically called coyote calling contests. In our schools, we teach that there's this senseless eradication of passenger pigeons long time ago, and then the almost eradication of the American bison. And these are pointed to as examples of how the arrogance of the American people have just about wiped out a whole species of wildlife. And in their great wisdom, we have outlawed dog fighting, and we have outlawed cockfighting. And how is this really different? It has to do with telling our young people about the respect for wildlife, the value. Does wildlife have value or doesn't it have value? I'm about to become a first-time grandmother, and I can see myself going to the store with my grandchild, and he or she's seeing this poster that says wildlife calling contest. Grams, what is that? How do I explain that a group of people get together and they pool their resources, pool their money, and they go out and they kill as many coyotes as they can possibly kill, and they dump them all in this huge bloody carcass mass? How do I explain that to my child, to my grandchild? So I'm hoping that you will vote in favor of this petition. Thank you very much.
Next public comment. Go ahead, Mr. Hyatt.
Hi, this is John Hyatt speaking, representing Red Rock Audubon here. There's been a huge evolution in attitudes towards wildlife over the past century or so, and also a strong recognition that predators in particular play an essential role in ecosystems. And to have contests in which we're killing animals just to be killing them doesn't make any sense to me. As was mentioned by some other people, respect for animal life is really key to what sportsmen are all about. And to basically say, we respect some forms of life, but we don't respect these others because they're predators, doesn't really make any sense, and is very inconsistent with what we know about wildlife dynamics. So I would urge you to accept the petition and move forward with thinking about how to craft language, how to implement the desires of the petitioners. I think we would all be better served in Nevada if we do away with wildlife killing contests. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Karen Lane. I want to also encourage you to accept this petition, recognizing that you may not necessarily agree with everything that's in it, but it allows you as a commission to at least look at this issue and do your own work in this area. And I think it's very important that the commission show a willingness to at least address this issue. You have probably many people there that are in support of this. And I will say at the Clark County CAB meeting on Tuesday night, we had a very interesting discussion. Particularly, one of the issues was around the concept of wanton waste. And I remember that committee member Joe Luby saying that, his view was that if he was in this contest and he killed a coyote, and it wasn't wanton waste because he stuffed that coyote. It was actually at a taxidermy place. And I would say, my way of thinking, that kind of shows our difference in values in some respects. But I would like for you to at least consider this issue in terms of how people perceive the idea, has been pointed out by all the other people here at this event, the idea of respect for wildlife and how these contests fly in the face of that. Thank you.
Okay, additional comment, Vegas, or is that everyone? That's everyone I can see.
Done? No, that's it, Commissioner, Chairman. Thank you.
Everyone in Vegas. Let's go to Elko. Public comment on item number 6.
We have comment, Commissioner.
Fern Winder for the record, Elko County Cab. Tuesday night we had a pretty lengthy discussion on this issue, as did most cabs, I'm sure. Going back to Mr. Baldoon, saying that the coyotes don't, in these contests, are just publicly displayed and nothing's done with them. We had one person from our audience come up and say that he personally has taken coyotes from culling contests, taken them home and processed them to the fur trade. The fur trade on coyotes, that goes to our military, goes to other things, for coats, warm weather. I have a son who's in the military and he benefits from it. And that's all I've got from the Elko Cab.
Could you give us your last name one more time, just for the record?
Winder, W-I-N-D-E-R.
Thank you. Okay, next public comment, Elko.
Yes. For the record, I'm Cliff Gardner. I want to read into the record today a statement representing Rural Heritage Preservation Project. I hope you can hear me well.
We can.
If the animal rights were to move to a distant land, and I wish they would, I believe we would find that the average IQ within society would increase by at least 10 points.
Mr. Gardner, stick to the merits of the petition, please. Go ahead.
For it appears clearly that no one is less observant and understanding of our natural world than our animal rights. In Ruby Valley, where my family and I live, you can visit the Ruby Lake National Wildlife Refuge and observe nothing but a desert of dead, decadent vegetation, with few wildlife to be seen anywhere. Whereas prior to the government's purchase of that area, there were waterfowl, songbirds, rodents, and muskrats everywhere. Have you ever noticed a rancher will show up someplace, break out a piece of ground, put in alfalfa or a grass mixture of some kind, and before long, squirrels, gophers start showing up. Mice and voles become a problem. Badgers start digging holes here, there, and everywhere. Insects and songbirds become commonplace. Hawks, ravens, and seagulls begin patrolling the area. First thing you know, the rancher is out there setting out a trap line and placing poison bait in squirrels' holes. My wife and I now have 5 grandchildren that are attending our little country school in Ruby Valley. 3 or 4 years ago, some of the children at school noticed that there was a number of ground squirrels that had taken up residence along a row of trees on the border of the school playground. So being country kids, they asked the teacher if they could bring some tracks to school and trap. Well, it wasn't long, of course, one of the ladies at the refuge headquarters found out about their little venture, and you know what hit the fan. Meetings were called and it was made known to everyone. All ranch kids ever do is kill things. I thought about what the woman had said. All ranch kids ever do is kill things. It reminded me of what I had been witnessing there on the Ruby Lake National Wildlife Refuge during my lifetime. In 1938, the gardeners put up hay there on the Cave Creek Ranch. just as they had been doing under lease for a number of years. This was just before the refuge was created. There were sage grouse everywhere. More men had trouble keeping them away from their sickle bars, enough so that someone was able to harvest a few for the evening meal a time or two. And as for squirrels, the tomokes, and the knights who made up most of the hay crew whose families were camped near the road were practically living on zippy, as squirrels are called by the Shoshone. It wasn't long, however, after the refuge had been established, sage grouse and zippy were disappearing, and today are mostly extinct on the refuge. Muskrat abundance is also a thing of the past. In the 1960s and 70s, Slim Saxton and Jack Lumback would trap from 6,000 to 7,000 muskrat during any given season there on the refuge. Now such abundance is gone. A person attempting to trap the refuge today would find he would have absolutely nothing to do within a day or two. As for sage grouse, where refuge personnel counted an average of 500 sage grouse inhabiting the refuge during the years following its establishment, today, by all counts, there are only a small group of sage grouse left, which can be seen on the southern end of the refuge near Narcissus Spring from time to time. Yes, it may be true. We ranchers do kill things, coyotes, ravens, chicken hawks, and badgers. But you know what? We are smart enough to know when we kill things, not only do we protect our own interests, we create a balance. A balance between predators and prey. By keeping predators down, there soon develops an abundance of all manner of animal life, including predators. This is what was wrong with the West prior to the coming of white man. There were too many predators and not enough prey. When the Bartleson-Bidwell Party undertook the task of reaching California by crossing through the Great Basin in 1841, they thought that they could supplement their meager stores by living off the land. Instead, they found a desert nearly void of wildlife of every kind. Later, John Bidwell wrote.
You have a minute left for the preservation project, but please wrap up by being specific.
Yes. The remainder of the comment includes statements of all others that came through the Great Basin at that time, which testified to the same dire circumstances. Then I say a little bit about Tom Wiegand, who lives in Humboldt County and decided a year or two ago that he would go up to the Sheldon, where they hadn't allowed predator control for a number of years, and he could put a trap out by its boundary, and before long would catch abundance of coyotes and bobcats. What he found was an absence, a complete absence of wildlife anywhere along the boundary, and when he investigated within that boundary.
Okay, your time's up, so if you have a last statement, make it. We're going to go to the next comment.
Yes, what I want to say to all people, if we care about America, it's time we push back. A free people, we need to free the people and our wildlife from the common lack of sense, common sense, and stupidity by those that push these kinds of programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next public comment, Inoko.
Yeah, Fernwinder again for the record, speaking on behalf of myself. Listening to Mr. Muldoon speak and present.
You already made a comment, so is this a second comment? Because I'm not
This is
allow...
on behalf of myself. The first one was for the Elko cab.
On behalf of the cab? Okay.
Yeah.
Go
That's
ahead.
why I split it up.
All right.
This is on behalf of myself. On behalf of my... Mr. Muldoon had stated in his thing, in his presentation, respect, tearing up land. I've sat at commission meetings with Mr. Muldoon behind me, where he supports off-road racing in Vegas. This does tear up land, a lot more land than we do as hunters. He has sat behind me and said that we're nothing but killers, killers, killers. We're not killers. We kill, yes. We kill to provide for our families. Coyote killing contests, yes, there are not very many of them in the state. There's no reason to ban them. as said, we've got people that go to these contests, take the hides, and ship them to the fur trade to use for clothes and warm weather gear. He says the public. He's referring to the public as himself. Every rancher is the public. Everybody's public. He's trying to speak on behalf of me, saying I'm public. Right now I'm in the public. These are not my wishes that he has put up. He says that 10,000 coyotes are shot. That a coyote calling contest, we do minimal damage or take minimal coyotes compared to 10,000. If we're killing 10,000 coyotes and coyote calling contests are minimal, Mr. Muldoon, have the respect, as you say that we don't have, to stay in your own world and not force your opinions on us. Because our calling contests do take minimal coyotes, and the coyotes are being used if you would do more research. One statement in Vegas, she said that she's going to be a first-time grandmother.
You got 30 seconds.
Sitting beside me is my daughter, that any day she is overdue, will be a first-time mother, and I'll be a first-time grandfather. I have brought my kids up to hunt, to fish, to do coyote calling contests. My son is in Germany, as I stated, in the Army. He benefits from this. I hope my granddaughter, my first-time granddaughter, has the opportunity to be able to make her own choice to hunt, to fish, to participate in a calling contest. And that's all I've got to say.
Your time's up. Thank you. Additional public comments in Elko?
No further comment.
Okay. Thank you, Vegas. Thank you, Elko, for your comments. We're at 11:33. Let's take a 12-minute break. We're going to reconvene at 11:45 with County Advisory Board input in Reno, and then we'll start with public comment in Reno. So 11:45 sharp, and we'll keep moving.